Have you ever wondered why you can sleep for 8 hours, sometimes even more, and still wake up feeling exhausted, heavy, like your mind ran a marathon while your body just laid there? We've been taught that sleep is only about physical rest. You know, close your eyes, lie still, and the body takes care of the rest. But if that were true, why do so many of us wake up more tired than when we went to bed? Think about it. You shut down your phone at night, but do you ever shut down your mind? Or does it keep playing old conversations, worries about tomorrow, regrets from yesterday? Most people don't realize that sleep isn't just a biological function, it's a sacred time for the mind. Imagine this: what if your mind was like a lake? During the day, storms rage on the surface, work stress, social pressures, self-doubt. When you lie down at night, the storm doesn't stop just because the sun sets. Those waves keep crashing. The ancient Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, knew this truth long before we did. They didn't see sleep as a mindless pause or just shutting down the body. They saw it as a crucial training ground, a daily ritual to refine the mind and prepare the spirit for the next sunrise. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Roman emperors and philosophers, wrote nightly reflections, not because he was obsessed with self-improvement in a toxic way, but because he understood, the way we enter sleep determines the way we wake up. He treated each night like a final rehearsal, an opportunity to examine his mind, to release what no longer served him, to plant seeds of clarity and peace for the next day. Seneca, another powerful Stoic thinker, saw sleep as a form of temporary death, a letting go of control, a gentle practice of surrendering to the universe. Instead of carrying the noise of the day into the night, he believed in cleansing the mind, letting it become still like a calm pond under moonlight. Epictetus reminded us that we don't control external events, but we do control how we respond, and this includes how we prepare our mind for sleep. If we go to bed filled with resentment or worry, that emotional poison seeps into our dreams, into our subconscious, and into how we show up in the world the next day. So let me ask you, when was the last time you truly prepared your mind for rest? Not just your body. Did you ever reflect on your day before bed, or did you scroll endlessly through your phone, letting random content flood your mind right before you drift off? The truth is, your mind cannot heal if it's cluttered. You can't wake up strong if you fell asleep weak in spirit. Sleep becomes a mirror, it reflects exactly what you brought into it. Imagine going to sleep like a warrior preparing for battle, not with weapons but with stillness, with gratitude, with acceptance. Imagine waking up not as a victim of your restless mind, but as a master of your inner world, calm and focused no matter what the day throws at you. This isn't about perfection. It's not about controlling every thought, that's impossible. It's about creating space inside, enough to allow your mind to breathe, to let go, to reset. The Stoics believed that every night is a chance to die to your old self and be reborn stronger, clearer, and more peaceful. It sounds poetic, but it's also profoundly practical. If you spend your nights cleaning out the mental clutter, your mornings become invitations to new beginnings, not battles you dread fighting. So tonight, when you lay your head down, ask yourself, what am I carrying into my sleep? Are you bringing the heavy baggage of past mistakes, the fear of what might happen tomorrow, or the endless loop of what-ifs? What if, instead, you went to sleep like a sage, letting go, embracing stillness, and welcoming the mysterious darkness as a sacred reset button? Because at the end of the day, sleep isn't just a break from life. It's the quiet forge where tomorrow's version of you is shaped. And the question is, what kind of self will you awaken as? Part 1: The importance of preparing the mind before sleep. When you think about how you start your day, what comes to mind? Maybe it's your morning coffee, your workout, or that rush to check your phone notifications. But let me ask you something deeper. Have you ever realized that how you start your morning is actually determined long before the alarm even rings? It all begins the night before. See, most of us think our day starts when we open our eyes. But the truth is, the real foundation of our next day is quietly being built in those final moments before we drift into sleep. Imagine this: 2 people go to bed tonight. One closes their eyes feeling regret over things they said, angry about a comment someone made, replaying a mistake at work. The other reflects on the day, acknowledges their successes and failures, forgives themselves, and lets go. When they wake up, one rises heavy, already burdened by yesterday's shadows. The other wakes up lighter, clear, and focused, ready to meet whatever comes. Why? because the way we end our day defines the energy we carry into the next one. This isn't just philosophy, it's practical psychology. Neuroscientists have discovered that the final thoughts we entertain before sleep seep into our subconscious and influence our emotional state the next morning. It's why so many people start their day feeling anxious, even before their feet hit the ground. Their mind was never truly at rest. And this is exactly what the Stoics understood thousands of years ago. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who faced endless political intrigues and personal losses, didn't just roll into bed and hope for the best. Every night, he practiced what he called evening reflections, a moment to review his day without judgment, to learn without self-punishment, and to set his mind at peace before surrendering to sleep. Seneca, another legendary Stoic philosopher, described nighttime as a sacred interval, a temple for the soul. He didn't see it as a mere pause between activities but as a powerful ritual. He encouraged us to ask ourselves, what did I do well today? Where did I fall short? How can I be better tomorrow? But here's the twist, Seneca insisted this was not about guilt or self-criticism. It was about clarity. About seeing things as they are, not as we wish they were. Now, you might think, that sounds intense. Do I really have to interrogate myself every night before bed? No, you don't have to interrogate. But you do have to check in. Think of it like cleaning your kitchen at night. You wouldn't leave dishes piled up, food scraps rotting, and expect to wake up to a fresh, welcoming space in the morning. Your mind is no different. If we don't take time to clear the mental dishes, the regret, the anger, the worries, we wake up to the same emotional mess, just a day older, a little heavier. Let me share something personal with you. A few years ago, I used to fall asleep while scrolling social media, comparing my life to others, telling myself I wasn't enough. I woke up every morning already tired of a race I didn't sign up for. But when I discovered this ancient practice, everything changed. I started keeping a small journal by my bed. Before sleep, I'd write just 3 things: what I did well, what I could have done better, and one intention for tomorrow. Some nights, it took 5 minutes. Other nights, it took me into deeper reflection. But regardless of the length, I felt lighter. I stopped dragging yesterday's weight into the next sunrise. Over time, something magical happened. My mornings stopped feeling like battles and started feeling like invitations. The Stoics believed that at night, we should return to ourselves. Not to blame or shame ourselves, but to reconnect. To remember that we are human, imperfect, and yet capable of incredible growth. Imagine how differently you'd show up in your life if, each night, you took a moment to forgive yourself. To acknowledge that no matter how chaotic the day was, you are still here, still breathing, still worthy of another sunrise. What if you chose to celebrate your small victories instead of obsessing over minor failures? What if, instead of replaying that awkward conversation in your head 1,000 times, you simply noted it, learned from it, and let it drift away like a leaf on a river? Most of us allow the day to define us far beyond its actual span. We replay scenes from morning meetings at 2 a.m., carry resentment from lunchtime arguments into our dreams, and clutch onto fears about tomorrow's to-do list as if they were life or death. But the night is not a time to rehearse the past or worry about the future. It's a time to surrender. A time to return to stillness. The Zen masters call this beginner's mind, a mind open, unburdened, ready for what's next without preconceptions. The Stoics, though from a different culture, shared this exact spirit. They knew that each day is a small lifetime. You are born in the morning and die at night. If you think of each day as a full circle of life, how would you want to die at night? Angry? Stressed? Carrying resentment? Or would you prefer to die peacefully, with a sense of gratitude and completion, ready to be reborn the next day? This nightly practice is not about spiritual dogma or perfectionism. It's about preparing the soil of your mind so that tomorrow's seeds can grow. When you neglect this preparation, you wake up reacting to life rather than creating it. You start your day behind, chasing emotions you didn't resolve, tangled in thoughts that don't serve you. But when you end your day intentionally, your mornings become a blank canvas, fresh, open, full of possibility. Think about athletes before a big game. They don't just wake up and run onto the field. They prepare the night before. They visualize the moves, they rest their bodies, they focus their minds. Your life deserves the same respect. So tonight, I invite you, before you close your eyes, take a few moments to reflect. You don't need a fancy journal. You don't need a special app. All you need is a willingness to be honest with yourself. Ask, what did I do well today? Where did I let emotions control me? What can I do better tomorrow? What can I let go of right now? And then, the most powerful question of all, if tonight were my last night, would I be at peace with how I live today? Don't let this question scare you. Let it awaken you. Let it remind you of what actually matters. There is something deeply healing about ending the day with acceptance. It's a quiet act of courage, to face ourselves as we are, not as we pretend to be. In a world that constantly tells us to hustle harder and never stop, taking a moment to pause, to breathe, to look within, that is revolutionary. And when you do this, your sleep transforms. It becomes a true reset, not just for your body, but for your soul. You wake up not just rested but reborn. So, as you get ready for bed tonight, remember, you are not simply ending another day. You are closing a chapter of your story. How you close it will shape how the next one begins. Will you carry regret, anger, and fear into your dreams? Or will you choose to enter the night as a clean slate, open to renewal, and grateful for another chance? The choice is yours. Because in the end, how we prepare our mind before sleep isn't just about better mornings. It's about a better life. And that life starts tonight. Part 2, Releasing your mental luggage before sleep. Have you ever tried to fall asleep after a long, stressful day, and instead of drifting into dreams, your mind turns into a late-night talk show, replaying every mistake you've made? It's like your brain decides that 2 a.m. is the perfect time to remind you of that awkward comment from 3 years ago, that argument you had this afternoon, or that project you didn't finish. Why does this happen? Because most of us go to bed carrying mental luggage so heavy, it would make even the strongest travelers collapse. We carry failures we haven't forgiven ourselves for. Regrets we keep feeding, even though they no longer serve us. Unfinished worries about tomorrow, next week, next year. It's no wonder we wake up feeling like we've been in a fight rather than a peaceful sleep. Our body might be resting, but our spirit is still wrestling. Now, let me ask you, have you ever woken up feeling even more tired than when you went to bed? Like you've aged overnight? You see, that's not because you didn't sleep enough hours, it's because you didn't let go before closing your eyes. The ancient Stoics understood this deeply. They weren't emotionless statues or cold philosophers hiding from life. They felt everything, grief, joy, fear, excitement, but they refused to become prisoners to those emotions. Marcus Aurelius, a man who carried the weight of an entire empire, faced betrayal, loss, and constant political storms. Yet he wrote every night to remind himself, "Tonight could be my last." This wasn't meant to scare him. It was a call to presence. A gentle push to cherish each breath, each sunset, each word spoken. When you realize you might not wake up tomorrow, suddenly that embarrassing email you sent today doesn't seem so important. That argument with your coworker loses its sting. That plan you didn't finish becomes just a plan, not a sentence written in stone. Imagine living this way, free of regrets before you sleep. When we refuse to release our mental luggage, we rob ourselves of rest and renewal. We turn our beds into battlefields, our dreams into arenas for unresolved emotions. The Stoics believed that if we want to be strong in life, we first have to learn to be light inside. Think of your mind as a glass of water. If you keep stirring it with regrets and fears, it stays muddy. Only when you stop stirring, when you allow everything to settle, does it become clear again. Each night before sleep is a chance to let the water settle. You might be thinking, but I can't just forget my problems. And you're right, forgetting is not the point. The point is to stop clinging. Let's imagine this together. You're holding a heavy rock. At first, it feels manageable. But after a few minutes, your arm starts to shake. After an hour, the pain is unbearable. The rock didn't get heavier, your insistence on holding it did. That's how regrets and failures work. The longer we hold them, the more they drain us. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, taught that our mental baggage doesn't make us noble or stronger, it makes us weaker and more fragile. He wrote that a wise person knows when to put the rock down. What if tonight, you put yours down? In Eastern philosophy, there's a similar idea called letting go of attachments. Monks practice detachment not because they don't care, but because they want to care for the right things without being enslaved by them. Stoicism and Eastern wisdom share this same heartbeat: freedom through release, strength through surrender. When you let go of emotional baggage before bed, you're not denying that the problems exist. You're choosing to trust that you'll handle them better with a rested mind tomorrow. How many nights have you lost replaying a single conversation, as if somehow by thinking it through 1,000 times, it might change? How many dreams have been haunted by, what if, and why did I? What if you chose to see your mind as a guest house? Thoughts come and go, but you don't need to invite them to stay the night. Before sleep, imagine opening a door in your mind. You thank each worry for stopping by. You bow to each regret for the lesson it brought. And then, you gently guide them out. You don't need to stay tonight. I need space to breathe. When Marcus Aurelius wrote about contemplating his own mortality before bed, it wasn't about fear. It was about gratitude. When you understand that you may not wake up, you stop wasting energy on trivialities. You savor the softness of your blanket, the coolness of the night air, the comforting rhythm of your own breath. Your mind becomes a sacred temple, not a storage closet. You begin to realize that real strength is not about holding on, but about knowing when to release. Let me tell you a personal story. A few years ago, I had a big falling out with a close friend. I carried that resentment into bed for months. Every night, I replayed our last conversation, imagined comebacks, wrote imaginary letters in my mind. I thought that by replaying it, I was protecting myself from future hurt. But in truth, I was just harming myself over and over. One night, I tried something different. I imagined myself sitting across from my friend, saying everything I needed to say, not to win, but to release. I forgave them, and I forgave myself. I didn't sleep perfectly that night. But I slept more peacefully than I had in months. I woke up lighter. And over time, the weight of that experience faded. Not because it was erased, but because I stopped feeding it. This is the quiet power of letting go. It doesn't erase the past. It dissolves the chains that bind you to it. So tonight, as you prepare for bed, take a moment. Sit with yourself. Feel your breath. Ask, what am I holding that no longer serves me? What conversations am I replaying that I can release? What regrets am I feeding instead of forgiving? If I don't wake up tomorrow, would these things matter? Then, picture yourself placing those thoughts into a box. Close the lid. Put it on a shelf. Promise yourself you can revisit it tomorrow if you truly need to. But tonight, let your mind rest. Let your spirit breathe. You don't need to carry every mistake, every unfinished plan, every harsh word into your dreams. You deserve to be free, at least for these few hours of sacred rest. Because when you release your mental luggage, you don't just improve your sleep. You transform your life. You become more present, more compassionate, more resilient. You wake up not as a prisoner of yesterday, but as a creator of today. The world will always try to give you more to carry. But remember, you get to decide what you hold on to. As the Stoics and the Eastern sages teach us, we are not defined by the weight on our shoulders, but by our ability to put it down when needed. Your bed is not a courtroom. You don't have to prove anything tonight. You don't need to solve every problem before sunrise. Tonight, you only have one job: to rest. To heal. To come home to yourself. So, before you close your eyes, ask yourself one last question. What can I let go of, right now? Then, breathe. Smile. And let the night take you. Because tomorrow, you will rise again, lighter, clearer, and more alive. And that, my friend, is the quiet revolution you've been waiting for. Part 3, Your Relationship with Time, Learning to Live in the Present. Have you ever noticed how much of your life is spent anywhere but here? I mean, really think about it. How many hours today did you spend replaying something that happened yesterday? Or worrying about something that might never happen tomorrow? We've become experts at time traveling, but not in the cool, sci-fi way. No, we constantly jump between a past we can't change and a future we can't predict, and in the process, we lose the only thing that is real, the present moment. Let me ask you something deeply personal. When was the last time you truly felt alive in the exact moment you were in? Not distracted, not planning, not regretting, just here, fully present? Most of us lie awake at night, our minds buzzing with scenes from the past and imaginary disasters from the future. We lie there thinking, why did I say that in that meeting today? Or, what if I fail tomorrow? What if they don't like me? What if I'm not enough? It's no wonder we can't sleep. Our minds become crowded hallways where every ghost of the past and every phantom fear of the future line up to haunt us, all at once. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, had a brilliant analogy for this. He said that worrying about what might happen is like throwing your dinner into the fire and then complaining that you're starving. Let that sink in. Imagine you're holding a delicious plate of food, nourishing, warm, ready to enjoy. But instead of eating it, you toss it into the flames because you're too busy worrying about whether there will be food tomorrow. Then you look at the fire and cry, why am I hungry? We do the same thing with our time and our peace. We waste the present moment, the only moment we ever truly own, because we're obsessed with what came before and terrified of what comes next. It's a tragic comedy, and we play it every single day. Epictetus, another brilliant Stoic teacher, warned against what he called suffering before suffering. He urged us not to suffer twice, first in our imagination, and then again if the thing actually happens. How often have you tortured yourself with the thought of a future event that never even happened? You imagine failing a presentation. You see yourself stumbling over words, your boss judging you, your colleagues whispering behind your back. You feel the shame, the anxiety, the defeat, all before you've even stepped onto the stage. And then, in reality, the presentation goes fine, or it never even happens. But you already paid the price emotionally. Why do we insist on paying interest on a debt that may never be owed? The truth is, we lose more to imagined suffering than to real events. This isn't just philosophical poetry. Science backs it up. Studies show that our brain often doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined event and a real one. If you imagine a stressful scenario in detail, your body reacts with the same stress hormones as if it were actually happening. So every time you lie awake running horror stories in your head, your heart rate increases, your breathing changes, your muscles tense, as if you're fighting a tiger in the jungle. But there is no tiger. Just your mind running wild. The Stoics weren't against planning or preparing for the future. They believed in action, discipline, and foresight. But they drew a clear line: plan for the future, yes, but do not live in it. Preparation is wise. Obsession is destructive. The same goes for the past. How many hours have you lost replaying a moment that's gone forever? The harsh words you wish you hadn't said. The relationship that ended. The opportunity you missed. We think that by replaying these moments, we might somehow change them, fix them, redeem ourselves. But you can't change a single word spoken yesterday. You can only learn from it, and then return to this moment. Think of the mind as a room with a single window open to the present. If you keep that window shut, the room gets stuffy, dark, filled with old air and shadows. But when you open it, when you invite the present moment in, everything shifts. Fresh air. Clarity. Light. It's easy to say, live in the moment, but how do we actually do it? Here's a simple practice. Next time you're lying in bed, and your mind starts wandering into the past or sprinting into the future, bring it back by asking, what is real right now? Feel your breath moving in and out. Listen to the quiet hum of the night. Feel the softness of the sheets. Notice the beat of your heart, proof that you are alive, here, now. Nothing else is happening at this exact moment. In Zen, they call this returning to the breath, the simplest, most immediate anchor to the present. You might be thinking, but my worries feel so real. My regrets feel heavy. Of course they do. The mind loves drama. It loves a good story, even if it hurts you. But you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness watching them come and go. When you realize that thoughts are like clouds drifting across the sky, you stop chasing them. You watch them pass. Some are dark, some are light, but none stay forever. One of my favorite personal practices is to imagine my worries as leaves floating down a river. Each time a worry appears, an embarrassing memory, a fear of the future, I place it on a leaf and watch it drift away. The first few times, the mind rebels. It wants to jump in, grab the leaf, examine it from every angle. But over time, with gentle persistence, it learns to let go. The point isn't to erase all thoughts. It's to stop identifying with them, to stop letting them dictate your emotional weather. I remember a period in my life when I was haunted by a business failure. At night, I would replay every decision I made, every email I sent, every conversation I had. I tortured myself for months. Until one night, I realized, I was living in a prison I had built for myself. The bars weren't real, they were made of old memories and self-judgment. I asked myself, is this memory here, now, in this room? Or is it just in my mind? Of course, it was just in my mind. The room was quiet. My breath was steady. The world outside was sleeping peacefully. Only my mind was creating storms. That was the first night I truly slept in months. Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, they all taught that freedom isn't found in controlling the world outside, but in mastering the world inside. Your relationship with time determines your relationship with peace. If you live in the past, you become a ghost haunting your own life. If you live in the future, you become a hostage to what might never happen. But if you live here, in this breath, this heartbeat, this single moment, you are free. It's not that the past and future don't matter. They do. The past holds lessons. The future holds possibilities. But they are not places to live. They are guides, not homes. Imagine the mind as a ship. The past is the anchor, the future is the wind. If you drop anchor too deep, you can't move. If you only chase the wind, you lose direction. But if you use both wisely, you sail gracefully across the sea of life. Tonight, as you lie down, listen to your mind. Notice where it goes. Is it dragging you to yesterday's mistakes? Is it catapulting you into tomorrow's fears? Or can you gently guide it back to now, to the softness of your pillow, the quiet of your room, the warmth in your chest? Every night is an invitation to return home. Not to your physical home, but to your inner home, that space within you that is always here, always still, always at peace when you choose it. Ask yourself, what am I replaying that cannot be changed? What am I worrying about that hasn't even happened? What is real in this exact moment? Let these questions anchor you. Because the greatest gift you can give yourself is presence. Presence turns ordinary moments into miracles. It turns a simple breath into a celebration of life. It turns a quiet night into a sacred retreat. You don't need to fix the past tonight. You don't need to solve the future tonight. You only need to be here. The Stoics didn't have smartphones, social media, or constant news updates. But they faced the same restless mind we have today. Their answer was simple: return to now. They knew that tomorrow will arrive in its own time. Yesterday has already left. All we ever truly possess is this fleeting, precious now. When you live like this, sleep becomes easier. Your heart rests. Your spirit softens. You no longer go to bed as a battlefield of memories and projections. You go to bed as a sanctuary of peace. So tonight, before you close your eyes, ask yourself one final question. Am I here, or am I lost in a place that doesn't exist? And when you choose to be here, really here, you'll discover a calm so deep, it feels like coming home after a long, exhausting journey. Because you are not meant to live in the shadows of yesterday or the fog of tomorrow. You are meant to live here, now, fully, deeply, awake. And that is where true freedom, true rest, and true life begin. Part 4, Amor Fati, Learning to Love Your Fate. There's a phrase you might have heard floating around in self-help books or on motivational Instagram posts: amor fati. It sounds poetic and mysterious, like a secret code from an ancient scroll. But in Latin, it simply means love of fate. Not just accepting your fate. Not merely enduring it. But loving it. Let's pause on that for a moment. Loving your fate doesn't mean passively allowing life to trample over you. It doesn't mean giving up or sitting in a corner, whispering, "Oh well, this is my destiny." It means embracing everything that happens to you, the triumphs, the heartbreaks, the miracles, and the misfortunes, as essential pieces of your story. Can you imagine what your life would feel like if you didn't fight reality every single day? Most of us spend our entire lives resisting what is. We argue with the past. We protest the present. We try to negotiate with the future. We say things like, "This shouldn't have happened to me," or "If only it had turned out differently," or "I can't believe they did that." We torture ourselves not because of what happened, but because we believe it should have happened differently. It's like being hit by a sudden rainstorm and spending the entire day screaming at the sky instead of dancing in the rain. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, put it beautifully: we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. We create our own prisons by resisting what is. Imagine your mind like a flowing river. Every event in your life is a leaf floating on that river. Some leaves are beautiful, golden, shimmering in the sunlight. Others are dark, heavy, maybe even rotten. You can't control which leaves come. You can't jump in the river, chase them down, and remove only the ones you don't like. The only choice you truly have is, will you let them flow past, or will you keep fishing them out, clutching them to your chest, and crying, "Why me?" Amor Fati invites us to not just let go, but to embrace each leaf as part of the sacred river that is our life. I know, this isn't easy. Years ago, I lost someone I loved deeply. My mind replayed every moment, every word left unsaid, every dream we hadn't fulfilled together. I was angry with fate, with myself, with the universe. I thought if I resisted the pain hard enough, it might change. But all I did was deepen my suffering. Then I discovered the practice of Amor Fati. Slowly, painfully, I began to see that this loss was not a mistake or a punishment. It was part of my path. Part of what shaped me into the person I was becoming. When I stopped fighting the pain and instead welcomed it as a teacher, my nights became softer. My heart stopped waging war against reality. I didn't forget the loss, I carried it differently, as something sacred rather than something cruel. That is the essence of Amor Fati. Epictetus compared events to an arrow that has already left the bow. Once an arrow is in the air, no amount of wishing, hoping, or regretting will change its flight. Most of us stand on the sidelines, shouting at arrows that have already flown, saying, "Turn left. Go back. Hit a different target." But the arrow doesn't hear us. It just moves forward. So, what if instead of screaming at the arrows of life, we learn to watch them, accept them, and adjust ourselves accordingly? This practice isn't about becoming cold or emotionless. It's not about ignoring heartbreak or loss or disappointment. It's about refusing to let those experiences define your worth or dictate your peace. What if every obstacle in your path wasn't blocking you, but guiding you? What if every heartbreak was opening you to a deeper kind of love? What if every failure was a doorway to an unexpected opportunity you could never have imagined? Amor Fati doesn't promise that life will be easy. It promises that you will become unbreakable. When you truly love your fate, you stop seeing life as a sequence of good and bad events. You see life as a unified, complex masterpiece, every brushstroke necessary. Think of a traditional Japanese pottery technique called kintsugi. When a bowl breaks, instead of discarding it or hiding the cracks, artisans repair it using gold. The cracks are not seen as flaws to be ashamed of but as part of the object's history, its unique beauty. Amor Fati is like becoming kintsugi for your soul. Your scars become your gold. So many of us go to sleep at night carrying silent wars in our hearts. Why did they leave me? Why didn't I get that job? Why is my life not turning out like I planned? We turn these questions over and over, hoping to find an answer that will magically fix our pain. But there is no answer, because the real problem isn't the event. It's our resistance to it. When we embrace Amor Fati, we turn those questions into statements. They left me, and I am still whole. I didn't get that job, and I trust that my path is still unfolding perfectly. My life isn't what I planned, and that's what makes it beautifully mine. Imagine how your nights would change if you went to bed no longer needing life to be different. What if you let go of that constant inner negotiation with reality? Instead of tossing and turning, bargaining with the universe, you simply whispered, "Thank you. Thank you for all of it. The easy moments and the hard ones. The sweetness and the bitterness. The gains and the losses. Thank you for every arrow, every leaf, every crack of gold." When you practice this, You begin to see life not as a series of random events but as a deeply meaningful narrative that is always working for you, even when it doesn't look like it. Your heart becomes spacious. Your mind becomes quiet. Your sleep becomes deep, like a calm ocean after a storm. You wake up no longer bracing for the day ahead but welcoming it, no matter what it holds. You stop needing perfect conditions to feel at peace. You stop measuring your worth by your success or your failures. You stop fighting life. And in that surrender, you find your greatest power. If tonight were your last night on earth, would you spend it fighting what is? Or would you spend it loving every imperfect, unpredictable, beautifully flawed moment you've been given? Amor Fati asks us to choose the latter, every single time. When we do, we become like the mountain, strong, unmoved by the wind, unafraid of the seasons. We become like the river, flowing forward, embracing every rock, every twist and turn, never resisting, always moving. We become like the sky, vast enough to hold every storm and every ray of sunshine without judgment. Tonight, before you close your eyes, take a breath and ask yourself, what am I still fighting in my life? What arrows am I screaming at? What if, instead of resisting, I welcome them with open arms? Let your exhale be an offering. Let your heart whisper, Amor Fati. And when you do, you'll find that you don't just sleep better. You live better. You love deeper. You walk through life with a quiet, steady joy that no external storm can touch. You become unshakable. Because the strongest person is not the one who controls everything. It is the one who has learned to love everything. Amor Fati isn't just a Stoic slogan. It's an invitation. An invitation to live fully, to sleep peacefully, and to embrace this wild, beautiful journey with open arms. Tonight, let that be your final thought. Let it guide you into your dreams. And when the morning comes, let it carry you into a new day, stronger and more free than ever before. Part 5, The Power of Nighttime Journaling and Self-Reflection. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you truly sat down with yourself, not to criticize, not to scroll mindlessly, but to actually listen? We live in a world obsessed with output. We measure our value by how many tasks we finish, how many emails we reply to, how many steps we track on our smartwatches. But amidst all this noise, we forget to pause and ask one simple, essential question: how am I, really? Imagine your mind as a room. Throughout the day, we drag in bags of worries, throw papers of negative self-talk on the floor, leave dirty dishes of regret piled in the corner. By nighttime, the room is so cluttered, there's barely space to breathe. And then we wonder why we can't sleep. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in ancient Rome, understood this better than anyone. Every night, after leading armies and governing an empire, he would retreat to his journal. Not to boast, not to make to-do lists, but to ask himself hard questions. What did I do well today? Where did I let my emotions control me? Did I live in alignment with my values? It wasn't an exercise in self-punishment. It was an act of liberation. Seneca, another great Stoic thinker, called this practice turning the mind inward. He believed that by reviewing the day, we could learn without shame and grow without guilt. When you write at night, you aren't just putting words on a page. You're unpacking the weight you've carried all day. Think of it like cleaning your kitchen before bed. You don't leave crumbs all over the counter, dishes in the sink, and expect to wake up to a peaceful morning. You tidy up, so tomorrow feels fresh and welcoming. Your mind deserves the same care. When we don't reflect, we carry today's mess into tomorrow. Regrets become heavier. Mistakes pile up. Our mental room becomes so suffocating that we start each day already overwhelmed. But when we write, we clear space. We create mental oxygen. This isn't about writing the perfect essay or crafting poetic lines. It's about honesty. It's about saying, this is what happened today. This is what I felt. This is what I learned. You might be thinking, I'm not a writer. Journaling isn't for me. But you don't need to be a writer. You only need to be human. A private journal isn't about performance. It's about presence. You can scribble one sentence: today I was impatient with my coworker. You can write a paragraph: I felt proud of how I stood up for myself today. Or you can fill pages, pouring out every hidden corner of your mind. Each word you write is like opening a window in that cluttered mental room, letting the fresh night air sweep away the dust. Some nights, you might resist. Your mind will tell you it's pointless, that you're too tired, that Netflix or TikTok would be easier. But ask yourself, easier for what? For ignoring your soul a little longer? For postponing the quiet truths that could set you free? When you start making this a ritual, even just 5 minutes a night, you'll notice something extraordinary. Your dreams become calmer. Your mornings feel less rushed. Your decisions throughout the day begin to align more clearly with who you truly are, not just who the world expects you to be. I remember a period in my life when I felt constantly overwhelmed: work deadlines, family responsibilities, that inner voice saying I wasn't doing enough. One night, out of desperation, I opened an old notebook and began writing. I wrote about everything that scared me, everything that frustrated me, everything that brought me joy but that I never acknowledged. I didn't realize it then, but I was creating space inside myself. A space to breathe, to see clearly, to reconnect. Over time, this nightly practice became sacred. My journal became my most honest friend, a mirror that showed me not just the mess but also my growth. Some nights, I celebrated small wins. I called my mom today just to say hi. Some nights, I forgave myself. I was impatient today, but I'm learning. Some nights, I set gentle intentions. Tomorrow, I want to listen more and speak less. In those pages, I met my truest self. The Eastern philosophies often speak of clearing the heart, the idea that before we rest, we must clear away emotional clutter, so we don't carry it into our dreams or our next day. This aligns so beautifully with Stoicism. The Stoics weren't asking us to be robots, emotionless and perfect. They were inviting us to become deeply aware, to see ourselves clearly without illusion or pretense. When we write at night, we don't just remember the day, we digest it. We learn what nourished us and what poisoned us. We learn what to keep and what to let go. Without this reflection, we become like a ship sailing without a map, tossed by every wave of emotion and external opinion. But with nightly journaling, we become captains of our own vessel. We chart our course with intention and honesty. Ask yourself tonight: what made me feel alive today? What drained my energy? Did I act out of love or out of fear? What can I do differently tomorrow? Let your pen be your lantern in the dark hallways of your mind. If you feel resistance, remind yourself, it's not about judgment. It's not about fixing everything in one night. It's about listening. In a world that shouts at us all day long, the quiet act of writing is revolutionary. You might think your day was ordinary, unworthy of reflection. But when you start writing, you realize every day is rich with lessons and gifts hidden beneath the surface. When you look back weeks or months later, those pages become proof of your journey, not just the high points, but the valleys that taught you patience and courage. You realize that growth doesn't happen in grand, dramatic moments. It happens in these small, nightly whispers to yourself. So tonight, instead of scrolling through endless updates, instead of numbing out with noise, give yourself 5 minutes. Open a notebook. Write a sentence. See what unfolds. As you close your eyes after writing, you'll feel a new kind of peace. Like coming home to a tidy room, you'll feel lighter, clearer, more prepared to greet tomorrow. Marcus Aurelius and Seneca weren't just philosophers for ivory towers. They were practical guides for living fully and sleeping deeply. They knew that self-reflection isn't about dwelling on mistakes but about mining them for wisdom. It's about treating each day as a precious chapter, and each night as an opportunity to close that chapter with intention and grace. Before you drift into sleep tonight, ask yourself: what am I proud of today? What small lesson did life offer me? How can I grow from this? And then, let it go. Close your journal, close your eyes, and rest in the gentle knowing that you are becoming more aligned, more authentic, more whole, one quiet page at a time. Because in the end, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. And every night, you get a chance to nurture that relationship, to deepen it, to honor it. Let tonight be that beginning. Part 6: Negative Visualization, Preparing for Loss. Let me ask you a question that might sound a little strange at first. When was the last time you imagined losing everything? I know. That sounds dark, almost morbid. In a world obsessed with positivity and good vibes only, talking about loss feels like breaking some unspoken rule. But the Stoics had a completely different approach. They practiced what they called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It sounds harsh, right? But hear me out. They didn't do this because they were pessimists, or because they loved to torture themselves with worst-case scenarios. They did it to prepare their minds and strengthen their spirits. They believed that if you can look at the darkest possibilities head-on, you rob them of their power over you. Imagine this: you close your eyes tonight and you think, what if I lose my job tomorrow? What if my health fails? What if someone I love leaves my life? Most of us would rather run from these thoughts. We drown them out with distractions, social media, endless shows, anything to avoid facing our deepest fears. But the Stoics, like Seneca, encouraged us to sit with these possibilities. Why? Because when you confront the possibility of loss before it happens, you transform fear into gratitude. Seneca himself would often imagine losing his wealth, his social standing, even his health. He did this not to invite disaster into his life but to remind himself that none of it was truly his to begin with. He understood that everything we have, our possessions, our relationships, our bodies, are temporary gifts from the universe. We are their stewards, not their owners. When you see life this way, each morning becomes a miracle. Each hug, each sunrise, each meal, each ordinary moment becomes sacred. If you knew you might lose everything tomorrow, how deeply would you cherish today? Would you still rush through your breakfast, distracted and irritated? Would you still snap at your partner over something trivial? Would you still let your mind wander into endless complaints and comparisons? Or would you breathe deeper, smile more often, and hold the people you love a little tighter? Negative visualization isn't about living in constant fear. It's about building unshakable gratitude. When we assume that everything will always go right, we become fragile. We build castles in the sand and scream when the tide inevitably comes in. But when we accept that tides are part of life, we build from a place of humility and strength. We stop demanding that the universe obey our plans and start embracing what is. I remember a time in my own life when I thought I had everything perfectly mapped out. My career was rising, my health was strong, my relationships were flourishing. I felt invincible. Then, seemingly overnight, everything changed. A business deal collapsed. A close friend betrayed my trust. I faced a serious health scare that shook me to my core. For weeks, I spiraled in confusion and pain. I kept asking, why me? How could this happen? Then I stumbled upon this Stoic practice of negative visualization. At first, I thought it was crazy. Who wants to think about losing everything when they're already down? But as I started practicing it, something shifted. I realized that nothing in life is guaranteed. And in that realization, a strange freedom emerged. I began to see every small joy as a gift. A simple meal tasted richer. A sunset looked more vibrant. A laugh with a friend felt like a sacred ceremony. I wasn't numb to pain, I felt it fully. But I was no longer surprised by it. No longer controlled by it. I stopped seeing loss as a personal betrayal from life and started seeing it as a natural chapter in the story of existence. The Zen Buddhists have a saying, let go or be dragged. When we refuse to acknowledge the impermanence of life, we get dragged by every change, every loss, every unexpected twist. But when we practice letting go, when we rehearse in our minds the possibility of loss, we prepare our hearts. We become less entitled and more grateful. We stop clinging and start savoring. Tonight, before you drift into sleep, try this. Picture your most cherished parts of life, your loved ones, your passions, your comforts. Then, imagine them slipping away. Not as a curse. Not as a punishment. But as a gentle reminder, I do not possess these things. I am simply lucky to experience them, even if just for today. You might feel a sting at first. A sadness. That's okay. Sit with it. Let it teach you. Let it melt the illusions of control you've held onto for so long. Ask yourself, if I lost everything tomorrow, would I have truly appreciated today? Have I spoken my love clearly enough? Have I lived as though each moment was a gift? Seneca wrote, he robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand. By facing possible hardships in your mind, you make them smaller in reality. You prepare your spirit so that when life inevitably challenges you, you remain upright, open, and unbroken. Imagine standing in a storm. Without preparation, the wind knocks you over, the rain blinds you. But if you've trained for the storm, you stand firm. You feel the force, but you don't collapse. That's what negative visualization gives you: inner armor, quiet courage. Some people think this practice will make them cold or detached. But it's the opposite. It makes you more tender, more alive, more compassionate. Because you see the true fragility of life and the preciousness of each moment. When you understand that loss is not an if, but a when, you begin to love more fiercely. You begin to live more honestly. You stop taking people for granted. You stop postponing your joy. You stop waiting for someday to finally appreciate what you have now. In a world obsessed with always wanting more, the practice of negative visualization reminds us that we already have so much to be grateful for, right here, right now. As you lie in bed tonight, take one last deep breath and whisper to yourself, I am grateful for this moment. I am prepared for all moments to come. And in that simple ritual, you transform your sleep into a sanctuary, your dreams into teachers, and your heart into an unbreakable vessel of gratitude. Because life isn't about avoiding loss. It's about loving so deeply that even loss cannot steal your joy. This is not just Stoicism. This is the art of living. Tonight, may you find the courage to imagine the worst, not to live in fear, but to rise in love. And tomorrow, may you wake up with a heart so grateful, so fierce, that no wave of life can shake its foundation. Part 7. Sleepless Nights, Don't Resist, Embrace. Have you ever stared at your ceiling at 2 a.m., wondering why sleep refuses to visit you? You toss and turn. You check the clock. You do that mental math: if I fall asleep right now, I'll get exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes before my alarm goes off. And somehow, that calculation only makes everything worse. You feel the panic rise. Thoughts flood in like an army. What if I can't function tomorrow? What if I get sick from lack of sleep? What if this ruins my entire week? Sound familiar? We've all been there. Lying in bed, begging for sleep as if it were a stubborn friend ignoring our texts. But what if I told you that the Stoics, those ancient masters of the mind, didn't see sleepless nights as enemies? They didn't treat insomnia as a monster to fight. Instead, they saw it as a teacher. A quiet invitation to practice acceptance. The modern world sells us the myth that sleep must be perfect, predictable, and fully under our control. We buy blackout curtains, take supplements, track our REM cycles with expensive apps. We create an entire battalion of tools to win at sleep. But sleep, like many things in life, can't be forced. It arrives when it wants, and no amount of pushing will make it come sooner. The Stoics taught that resistance is often the true root of suffering. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." When you lie awake at night, the real problem isn't always the lack of sleep itself, it's the story you tell yourself about it. You might think, "I'll be useless tomorrow." Or, "This proves there's something wrong with me." Or, "Why can't I be normal like everyone else?" But think about this: how many times have you slept poorly yet still made it through your day? Maybe you weren't at 100%, but you still showed up. You still survived. You still smiled at someone, solved a problem, or shared a laugh. The truth is, your body is far more resilient than your mind gives it credit for. When we stop fighting insomnia and start accepting it, something magical happens. Lying in bed awake becomes less of a war zone and more of a sanctuary. You start to realize that simply resting, even without sleep, still nourishes you. Lying quietly, breathing slowly, feeling your heartbeat, listening to the world hum around you, these are acts of restoration too. Eastern wisdom echoes this beautifully. In many meditation traditions, sleep is considered just one form of rest among many. Even if the body doesn't slip into deep sleep, the mind can still find peace in presence. Imagine this: instead of seeing insomnia as a failure, what if you saw it as a chance to spend sacred time with yourself? When else do we get to lie still, free from screens, meetings, and the constant demands of the day? At 2 a.m., when the world is silent, there is a kind of hidden magic in the air. The moonlight drips through your window like silver ink. The soft sounds of night become a lullaby you might have never heard before. If you stop trying to escape that moment, you might actually discover it's beautiful. Ask yourself, what is truly happening right now? Not what your mind is screaming about tomorrow, but what is real in this exact breath. You might notice the gentle rise and fall of your chest, the coolness of the pillow beneath your cheek, the hush of the distant night. Nothing to fix. Nothing to force. Just being. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself often that we don't control external events, only our responses. Lack of sleep is an external event. Your response? You can resist it, curse it, and spin in anxiety. Or you can surrender to it, soften into it, and let it be what it is. This doesn't mean you should never care about healthy sleep habits. It means that once you've done what you can, created a calming evening routine, limited late-night caffeine, honored your natural rhythms, the rest is beyond your grasp. True freedom comes when we release the illusion of control. I remember a time in my life when I was juggling too many projects, too many expectations, all self-imposed, of course. I'd lie awake at night, my mind racing through to-do lists, unfinished conversations, imaginary scenarios of failure. The more I tried to force sleep, the further it drifted. It felt like chasing a shadow. The closer I got, the more it slipped away. Then, one night, exhausted from the fight, I decided to do something different. I stopped fighting. I lay there and listened to my breath. I felt the weight of the blanket. I accepted that I might not sleep at all, and that it would be okay. Surprisingly, I felt a wave of peace wash over me. I didn't fall asleep immediately. But I wasn't at war anymore. Eventually, sleep did come, like a shy animal that approaches only when you stop chasing it. Since then, I've carried a simple mantra into my nights: rest is enough. Even if sleep doesn't visit, rest is enough. When you release the demand for a perfect night's sleep, you gift yourself the freedom to simply rest. Some nights, you may lay awake and reflect on the day. Other nights, you might focus on gratitude, or simply listen to the rain tapping on your window. When you embrace wakefulness as another form of rest, your nights become less threatening, your mind less frantic, your body more at ease. Ask yourself tonight: what if I stop measuring my worth by my sleep? What if I trust that my body knows how to restore itself, even when it doesn't look like I want it to? What if I simply rest, without expectations? Sleep is like love. It cannot be demanded, only invited. So tonight, instead of demanding sleep like a tyrant, invite it like a dear friend. And if it doesn't show up, enjoy the quiet company of your own presence. Remember, the bed is not a battlefield. Your mind doesn't need to become a courtroom at night. Instead, let it be a sanctuary. A place where you meet yourself, raw and unfiltered. A place where you learn to trust life's rhythms, even the ones that feel inconvenient. When you accept insomnia, you reclaim your nights as sacred time, rather than torture chambers of worry. And paradoxically, the more you accept wakefulness, the more gently sleep tends to arrive. Because peace attracts rest. Resistance repels it. Tonight, before you close your eyes, or even if you know you'll lie awake, whisper to yourself: I am here. I am resting. And that is enough. Breathe into that softness. Feel your heart slow. Listen to the world quiet around you. And whether sleep comes or not, you will rise tomorrow not as a victim of the night, but as a student of its wisdom. Because true strength is not found in controlling every moment, but in welcoming each one as it arrives. Sleep well, or stay awake in peace. Both are gifts. Part 8: Stoic Meditation Before Sleep. Let me ask you something that might sound simple but is actually quite profound. What is the last thought you have before you fall asleep? Do you even notice it? Or does your mind slip into dreams like a busy freeway, honking with worries, flashing with regrets, overflowing with all the noise of the day? The Stoics had a completely different approach to this sacred moment we often overlook. They didn't try to erase thoughts or force the mind to go blank. That's not even possible. Instead, they practiced gently guiding the mind, choosing where to place its focus, like a gardener choosing which seeds to plant before winter. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, would reflect each night on his day. But unlike most of us who replay our mistakes in a loop of self-judgment, he used this review to learn and to let go. He asked himself. Did I act in line with my values? Where did I let my emotions lead me astray? What can I release so I can rise clearer tomorrow? He wasn't punishing himself for being human. He was pruning the mental garden before sleep so that only what truly mattered would bloom in his dreams and beyond. Imagine if, instead of replaying that awkward thing you said in a meeting, or worrying about an email you haven't answered, you spent a few quiet moments focusing on what truly matters: kindness you showed, lessons you learned, or simply the gift of having lived another day. The Eastern traditions also speak of this nightly mental cleansing. In Zen, there's a saying, "Let your last thought be like a candle's gentle flame, soft enough to guide you into darkness, strong enough to light your way back at dawn." What if you chose your last thought each night with intention, like lighting that candle? We often underestimate the power of these final mental whispers. Neuroscience has shown that our brains continue to process and reinforce the last impressions we hold before sleep. It's like programming the operating system that will run your subconscious all night long. So when we fall asleep thinking about failures, fears, or what went wrong, we invite those seeds to grow overnight. We wake up feeling heavy, already burdened before the day even starts. But when we fall asleep holding thoughts of gratitude, clarity, and gentle self-compassion, we wake up lighter, more open, and more alive. I remember a period in my life when I felt completely lost. My mind was a storm each night: fears about the future, guilt from the past, endless self-criticism. One night, after reading Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, I decided to experiment. Instead of letting my mind wander wherever it wanted, I chose a single, seed thought to hold as I drifted off. That first night, my thought was simple: I did my best today, and that is enough. It felt awkward at first. My mind kept trying to sabotage it, pulling me back into old loops. But I gently returned to that phrase, like coming back to the breath in meditation. The next morning, I woke up feeling different. Not magically healed, but softer. Less rigid. More ready to face the day. So I kept going. Each night, I chose a new, seed thought. Tomorrow is a new chance to grow. I release what I cannot control. I am grateful for the lessons of today. Over time, this simple practice changed my relationship with sleep, and with myself. Instead of dreading the night as a battlefield of thoughts, I started seeing it as a sacred ceremony. A quiet meeting with my deepest self, a moment to plant seeds for the soul. The Stoics knew that you can't always control the events of your day, but you can control the way you close it. By choosing your final thought, you become the artist of your inner landscape. Imagine going to sleep each night not as an exhausted warrior collapsing into bed but as a peaceful gardener tending to the final rose of the day. Ask yourself tonight: what do I want to carry into my dreams? What deserves to stay? What deserves to be released? This is not about toxic positivity or forcing yourself to ignore real struggles. It's about choosing the most nourishing thought, the one that will support you rather than harm you. Marcus Aurelius called this the last thought, the seed you plant that shapes the first feeling of tomorrow. If tonight were your last night, would you want your final thought to be about a bill, a fight, a worry? Or would you rather it be something softer, something truer, something that feels like home? This practice doesn't require any fancy equipment. You don't need an app or a guided audio or a perfectly quiet room. You only need yourself. Your breath. Your willingness to pause. As you lie down tonight, take a few deep breaths. Feel the bed supporting you. Feel the gentle weight of the blanket. Let the tension melt from your face, your shoulders, your heart. Then, choose your thought. Maybe it's, "I am enough, just as I am." Or, "I forgive today, I trust tomorrow." Or simply, "Thank you for this day." Repeat it silently, like a lullaby to your own soul. Let it wash over you, again and again, until it becomes the only whisper left as you cross the threshold into sleep. And if other thoughts come, as they always do, don't fight them. Notice them, nod to them, and gently return to your chosen thought. Over time, this practice becomes a sacred ritual. You start to look forward to it, like a final cup of tea before bed or a quiet walk under the stars. It becomes a gift you give yourself, not because life is perfect, but because you are worthy of inner peace, even in imperfection. When you wake up the next morning, notice the difference. You might feel clearer, calmer, less quick to react. It's like tuning an instrument before a concert. A well-tuned mind plays more beautiful music throughout the day. Tonight, instead of scrolling your phone until you pass out, instead of worrying yourself into exhaustion, try this Stoic meditation. Guide your mind like a gentle shepherd leading sheep back to the barn at dusk. One by one, gather your stray thoughts and guide them toward peace. In that moment, you become both the guardian and the student of your own mind. And as you fall asleep, you step into your dreams not as a captive of the day's chaos but as the architect of your inner world. This is the quiet power of Stoic meditation before sleep. Not to fight thoughts, but to choose them. Not to erase the mind, but to plant seeds of wisdom and love. Not to demand perfection, but to offer presence. Tonight, as you close your eyes, ask yourself, what is the final gift I want to give to my soul before tomorrow comes? Choose it. Hold it. And let it guide you softly into the mystery of sleep. Because the true art of living, and resting, begins not in controlling every moment but in learning to meet each moment with an open heart. Sleep well, my friend. And may your chosen thought carry you like a gentle wave into the new day. Part 9. The connection between your daytime mind and your dreams. Have you ever wondered why some nights your dreams feel like a peaceful sanctuary, while other nights they turn into endless labyrinths of confusion and restlessness? You might blame it on that late-night snack or the horror movie you watched before bed. But what if I told you that your dreams are not random at all? What if I told you that your dreams are simply mirrors, gentle, mysterious reflections of your waking mind? The Stoics believe that our dreams reveal the true state of our inner world. If your mind is clear during the day, your dreams become clear. If your mind is chaotic, your dreams follow suit, echoing your hidden fears, unresolved conflicts, and buried desires. It's like looking into a still pond. When the water is calm, you can see the moon reflected perfectly. When it's stirred up, the reflection shatters into 1,000 pieces. The same happens in your mind. When we move through the day in a whirlwind, rushing from task to task, buried under endless notifications, absorbing drama from the news and social media, we carry all that noise into the night. We may think we can escape it by turning off the lights, but the mind doesn't have an off switch. Instead, it processes everything you gave it during the day. Your thoughts, your emotions, your stories, they all show up in the theater of your dreams. Have you noticed how when you spend the day worrying, you often dream of being chased, falling, or getting lost? Or when you spend the day feeling unworthy, you dream of failing an exam, missing a flight, showing up unprepared? These aren't punishments. They're signals, messengers from your deeper self, asking for your attention. Imagine your mind as a garden. During the day, you plant seeds with every thought. At night, those seeds grow in the soil of your subconscious. If you plant seeds of fear, regret, and resentment, don't be surprised if your dreams grow into thorny vines that entangle you through the night. But if you plant seeds of gratitude, curiosity, and kindness, your dreams can blossom into peaceful meadows that restore your spirit. I remember a period in my life when I was stuck in a loop of self-criticism. Every day, I told myself I wasn't doing enough, I wasn't good enough, I wasn't there yet, wherever there was. At night, my dreams were chaotic. I'd find myself wandering through dark, endless hallways, searching for doors that wouldn't open, feeling a constant sense of being lost. When I began to shift my daytime thoughts, offering myself small kindnesses, celebrating small wins, releasing impossible expectations, my dreams slowly changed. I started dreaming of open fields, of flying, of reconnecting with loved ones. It wasn't magic. It was the natural consequence of tending to my mind during the day. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that peace must be cultivated in each moment, not just at the end of the day. Seneca wrote that we must keep a constant watch over our minds, because a mind left untended becomes wild, like an abandoned garden. Eastern traditions echo this wisdom beautifully. In Zen, there is a saying, the mind is like a monkey jumping from branch to branch. To quiet the monkey, you must give it gentle guidance, not force. If we spend all day fueling the monkey's wild leaps, we can't expect it to suddenly sit calmly at night. Ask yourself, what stories did I feed my mind today? What emotions did I cultivate? Did I fill my mind with noise or with stillness? When we live consciously during the day, we prepare the ground for restful, meaningful sleep. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It means you become aware. You become the gardener of your own thoughts. Take a moment tonight before bed to reflect. What thought did I repeat most today? Was it one of fear or one of love? Did I nurture peace within, or did I let the world dictate my inner weather? If your day was chaotic, don't judge yourself harshly. Instead, see it as an invitation. Tomorrow is another chance to plant new seeds. Maybe you choose to pause more often, to take conscious breaths between tasks, to savor small joys instead of racing past them. Maybe you set gentle reminders on your phone: come back to the present, breathe, you are enough. These small acts ripple through your entire being. They shape not just your waking life but also your dream world. When you start tending to your mind this way, you'll notice that your dreams become less about escape and more about integration. You might find yourself receiving insights, feeling deeper connection to your purpose, or simply experiencing restfulness beyond words. The ultimate gift is waking up feeling whole. Not scrambling to fix the mental mess left over from yesterday, but stepping into the new day with clarity and calm. A calm mind at night begins with a conscious mind during the day. I invite you to see each thought as a seed and each emotion as water. Choose carefully what you plant and how you nurture it. At night, let your dreams be your mirror. Listen to them, learn from them, but remember, they are reflections, not destinies. If tonight your dreams feel heavy, see it as a gentle signal: what needs more attention in my waking life? And if they feel light and joyful, celebrate that as evidence of the love and care you've given yourself. This practice transforms sleep from a passive necessity into an active part of your spiritual and emotional journey. You're no longer just someone who goes to sleep. You become an artist painting the canvas of your mind, even as you rest. So tonight, as you lie down, ask yourself: what seeds did I plant today? And what blossoms might I meet in my dreams tonight? Let that question guide you into sleep. Let it invite curiosity rather than fear, wonder rather than judgment. Because the truth is, your dreams don't start when your eyes close. They start with every thought you choose from the moment you wake up. And in learning to guide your mind with kindness and presence, you learn to create not just peaceful nights but also more beautiful, intentional days. Sleep, then, becomes more than rest. It becomes a continuation of your conscious living. Tonight, may you rest not just deeply, but wisely. May your dreams reflect the quiet garden you've tended with love all day long. And tomorrow, may you rise not as someone escaping the shadows of the night but as someone stepping joyfully into a new dawn, fully awake to the miracle of your own life. Part 10: Strengthening your spirit by letting go of comfort. Have you ever noticed how addicted we are to comfort? We live in a world where everything is designed to be easier, faster, more convenient. We have memory foam mattresses that cradle every curve, heated blankets, blackout curtains, air purifiers humming softly in the corner. We barely have to get out of bed to order breakfast, check work emails, or turn on the lights. We're living in an age where you can spend an entire day without ever feeling even a slight moment of discomfort. At first glance, this sounds like paradise, right? But let me ask you a deeper question. What happens to our spirit when we build a life that never challenges us? The Stoics believed that true strength comes not from surrounding ourselves with perfect conditions but from learning to thrive regardless of conditions. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, had access to unimaginable luxury. Yet he practiced sleeping on the floor at times. Seneca, one of Rome's wealthiest men, would deliberately live for periods as a poor man, wearing rough clothes, eating simple food, sleeping on hard surfaces. But why would someone who could afford every comfort willingly choose hardship? Because they understood a powerful truth: the more you depend on comfort, the more fragile you become. Think about it. If you always need the perfect temperature, the perfect mattress, the perfect pillow to sleep, what happens when life inevitably takes those away? A flight delay leaves you in an airport chair all night. A camping trip brings a cold, hard ground. A power outage cuts off your heater. If your peace is built on comfort, it shatters the moment comfort disappears. But if your peace is built on inner strength, no external condition can break it. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort, not to punish themselves or to live in constant suffering, but to remind themselves of their true power. When you sleep on a hard floor for one night, you learn that you can handle it. When you fast for a day, you discover that hunger won't destroy you. These experiences shrink our fears and expand our courage. I remember trying this for the first time. I turned off all electronics, rolled up my thick mattress, and laid a thin blanket on the floor. It felt weird, almost rebellious against modern life. At first, every bone complained. Every muscle wanted to negotiate, just one pillow. Just a softer layer. But as I lay there, breathing, I felt something awaken inside me. There was a rawness, a primal connection to my own body and mind. I realized that comfort had made me forget how resilient I truly am. And when I woke up the next morning, a bit stiff, but whole, I felt a surge of quiet confidence. I had faced discomfort, and I was still here. This practice isn't about rejecting all comforts forever. You don't have to throw away your bed or cancel your favorite hot showers. It's about training yourself to know that your happiness does not depend on these things. It's about proving to yourself that you are bigger than your cravings. Eastern traditions speak of the same principle. Buddhist monks sleep on simple mats, eat 1 or 2 modest meals, and live without possessions, not because they hate comfort, but because they seek freedom from its chains. Freedom is not the ability to accumulate every comfort but the ability to remain unbothered when those comforts are gone. Ask yourself, what comforts do I cling to most? Do I believe I need them to be happy or at peace? What would happen if I lost them tomorrow? We fear loss because we believe we cannot live without certain things. But the Stoics teach us to rehearse loss so we discover we can live with less. And once you realize that, you become unbreakable. Imagine how differently you'd move through life if you weren't terrified of losing comfort. A sudden rainstorm on a trip? You laugh and dance in it. A delayed flight or missed connection? You adapt and make new friends at the airport. A power outage at home? You light candles and read stories instead of panicking. Because your peace no longer lives in your mattress, your air conditioner, or your daily latte. It lives in you. And here's the paradox: when you stop clinging to comfort, you actually enjoy it more. A warm bed feels more luxurious after a night on the floor. A hot meal feels like a feast after a simple fast. A hot shower feels like a gift from the gods after a cold rinse. By letting go of entitlement to comfort, we rediscover wonder in the simplest pleasures. The Stoics understood this as a kind of spiritual armor. If you no longer fear losing comfort, no one and nothing can control you. You're no longer at the mercy of life's ups and downs. You become like a tree rooted deeply in the earth, bending in storms but never breaking. Tonight, before you go to sleep, consider this. What small comfort could I willingly let go of for one night? Maybe it's skipping the extra pillow. Maybe it's turning off your phone and sitting with silence before bed. Maybe it's sleeping without air conditioning. This isn't about punishment. It's about presence. When you remove layers of luxury, you meet yourself more clearly. You learn to listen to your body's real needs, to hear your mind's real fears, to touch the steady core beneath all the layers. This quiet experiment builds an unshakable trust in yourself. You'll realize, I can endure. I can adapt. I am more than my comforts. When life eventually throws its inevitable discomforts at you, illness, loss, unexpected change, you'll be ready. Not because you've hardened your heart, but because you've softened your attachment. This is true power. Quiet. Gentle. Indestructible. So tonight, as you slip into bed, ask yourself, am I sleeping, or am I surrendering to comfort as a necessity? And tomorrow, as you wake up, ask, do I own my comforts, or do they own me? The moment you can answer, I own them, you step into a freedom few people ever taste. A freedom that no market crash, no lost job, no broken relationship can steal from you. Because your true bed is not made of memory foam or Egyptian cotton. Your true bed is the strength of your spirit, the softness of your heart, and the depth of your presence. Sleep well tonight, and sleep knowing that even without your softest pillow or your perfect room temperature, you are whole. And when morning comes, rise not as a servant to comfort, but as a master of your own inner world, planting your final seed in spiritual freedom. As we come to the end of this journey together tonight, I want to ask you one simple but powerful question. What is the last seed you plant in your mind before you fall asleep? Most of us don't even realize we're planting anything at all. We drift off thinking about unpaid bills, harsh words we exchanged, unfinished tasks, or mindless social media posts. We let these random, chaotic thoughts become the last seed, the final imprint on our spirit before we cross into the quiet mystery of sleep. But what if I told you that this final thought shapes not just your dreams, but also the energy you carry into the next morning, and beyond? The Stoics believed that the last thought before sleep is like a seed planted deep into the soil of the subconscious. By morning, it begins to sprout, quietly, invisibly, but with a powerful influence on how you feel, act, and see the world. Marcus Aurelius, who faced unimaginable pressures as an emperor and a man, understood this deeply. He reminded himself each night to release the burdens of the day, to forgive what needed forgiving, to remember his mortality, and to focus on what truly mattered. He didn't let his mind wander freely like a stray dog in the night. He guided it home, gently but firmly. Because he knew, the mind, if left unguarded, will cling to whatever is loudest or most recent, usually worries, anxieties, or regrets. But if we become conscious gardeners, we can choose what we plant. Imagine if tonight, instead of replaying that awkward moment at work or worrying about a future you can't control, you whispered to yourself, "I am grateful for this day, exactly as it was. I forgive myself and others. Tomorrow is a new chapter. If this were my last night, I would rest in peace knowing I lived today with love." How would your sleep change? How would your morning feel? This is not about denying hardship or pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing which thoughts deserve to travel with you into the night, and which should be left at the door. The Eastern traditions echo this practice beautifully. In many Zen temples, monks sweep the courtyard each evening, not because it's dirty, but as a ritual of clearing the mind. The act itself is symbolic. I sweep away today's dust so tomorrow can begin clean. What if we did the same with our minds each night? Instead of letting random worries flood the gates, we sweep them aside. We thank them for visiting. And we invite in a final, deliberate thought, a seed that carries peace, gratitude, or purpose. This last seed is your secret power. Because here's a quiet truth: none of us know if we'll wake up tomorrow. I don't say this to frighten you, but to awaken you. When we live as if each day might be our last, we stop postponing gratitude. We stop hoarding love. We stop delaying our dreams. We speak softer. We forgive faster. We notice the sunset instead of the notification. Imagine living each day as a complete chapter. Not an unfinished draft filled with "I'll do that tomorrow" scribbled in the margins. When we adopt this mindset, we transform from passive passengers to active authors of our lives. Each night becomes a sacred closing ceremony. A quiet bow to the day's lessons, joys, and struggles. You no longer drift into sleep as an exhausted escape. You enter it as an intentional release, a graceful stepping into mystery. Ask yourself tonight: what thought deserves to be my last tonight? If I don't wake up tomorrow, will I be at peace with this final seed? How can I shape my inner world so that even in dreams, I walk with purpose and gratitude? Some nights, this seed might be a simple phrase, "Thank you." Other nights, it might be a promise, "Tomorrow, I will listen more and judge less." Or a gentle reminder, "I am enough, even in my imperfections." By choosing this seed, you reclaim the night as a space of power, not of passivity. Over time, these small, nightly acts transform you. You begin to wake up not as someone running from yesterday's chaos, but as someone stepping confidently into today's possibilities. You begin to feel an inner freedom that doesn't depend on circumstances, achievements, or external validation. Because spiritual freedom is not about escaping the world. It's about learning to move through it with a calm, steady flame inside you that no storm can extinguish. The Stoics didn't prepare for sleep just to rest better, they prepared to live better. They knew that a mind unprepared for sleep is a mind unprepared for life. So tonight, as you lie down, take a deep breath. Feel your chest rise and fall like the gentle waves of a midnight ocean. Release the tightness in your jaw, your shoulders, your heart. Then, choose your seed. Plant it gently. Repeat it softly, like a lullaby to your soul. And as you drift into sleep, know that you are crafting tomorrow from the inside out. You're not just closing your eyes. You're opening your spirit. You're not just ending a day. You're completing a sacred chapter, with intention and love. And tomorrow, whether it arrives or not, you'll know that tonight you chose peace, gratitude, and freedom. This is the quiet revolution of living and sleeping like a Stoic. May tonight be your gentle practice ground, and may every seed you plant bring you closer to the free, radiant, fearless person you are meant to become. Good night, my friend. Sleep not just deeply, but wisely.